Okay, and then I will share my screen. So I've been really into making these PowerPoints, so you guys can see. So today we're going to talk about the spleen. The spleen is this wonderful, hardworking organ that lives right on the left side, sits on the left side of the body, right on the rib cage, behind the stomach, and underneath the diaphragm. It acts as this like filter for your blood. So it takes your blood, your old blood cells, and recycles them, breaks them down, gets the nutrients it needs out of it, particularly iron. That's like one of the big ones. And then sends all that good blood into the body. It stores white blood cells, which are lymphocytes. So those defend against, bacteria, viruses, colds, flus, and they produce antibodies to stop infection. Fun fact, actually, the spleen produces phlegm, and it sends that phlegm up to the lungs, and that's why when you cough, you have phlegm in the lungs, but that phlegm is made in the spleen, because that's the lymph tissue closest to the lungs. So fun fact, that's where your phlegm comes from. And it is the largest lymphatic organ of the body. And then I'm going to kind of go and talk a little bit about what it means for Chinese medicine, because this is a yin class, and so we are practicing in a way some kind of Chinese theory, Chinese medicine theory. So the spleen has kind of, it filters the blood, but energetically, we can think of that as the spleen transforms the blood. It's a transformer. It takes the fluid, it takes the food, and it turns it into blood, breaks it down, distributes that throughout the whole body. So it's a transformer. It's also a transporter. I kind of like this idea of you take what is on the earth, you eat it and digest it and use it for fuel, but taking what is on the earth and putting it into your body. It's a key hydrator, so blood, obviously a lot of blood is water, and it governs the spleen kind of governs the quality of the blood that's moving through your system. And since blood is kind of constantly moving, the spleen's quality of blood is, fairly important. The spleen stores the consciousness of potentials. So its mental function, well, first of all, its emotion is to worry. So sometimes when you want to diagnose some kind of disharmony in your spleen, you can be like, am I over worried? Like right now, I kid you not, there's a house centipede right on the wall behind my computer. And house centipedes, I wish I could show you, but I'm honestly too scared to move anything. They're not poisonous or anything, but it's very intimidating looking, and they actually eat roaches and stuff. Anyway, so I'm quite worried right now that that thing is gonna move. Anyway, so good thing we're doing this spleen practice. The spleen stores the consciousness of potential. So its mental function is to kind of this passive awareness. It's responsible for considerations. It's responsible for options. It's your final decision. It's also the source of creativity, clear thoughts, and enthusiasm to engage in the world. So this is the spleen meridian and kind of what we're working into today. This work, it starts on the big toe, travels up the middle of the leg, so kind of your inner thigh. A big muscle it goes through is the adductors. And then it kind of goes right in here, it kind of goes into the body in a mysterious pathway that only Chinese medicine can understand. And it branches off in three ways. One branch goes to the spleen. The other branch goes to the lung, which, like I said earlier, produces phlegm for the lungs. And then the last branch goes all the way up to kind of the back of the tongue. Underneath the tongue is another spleen point. But that's its kind of line. So you can kind of trace it, starting going down through pec major. There's a big muscle it passes through, goes into your body somewhere, and then down the center inside of your leg into the toe. And so we'll be working into our spleen meridian today to kind of harness this earthy quality about the spleen. You know, this part that wants to nourish and wants to move and wants to engage and wants to also make the right decision. It wants to take the thing that is best for us, digest it, process it, and move it through us. So that's the kind of intention of the spleen. We'll be working it in child's pose, sleeping baby, sphinx, and malasana. The kind of common thread is big opening in the adductors here and a lot of work to open the chest, especially with the sphinx. So yeah, that is our spleen. I'm really excited for this practice. Thankful that everyone's here. I'm going to pass it over to Greta now, and she's going to take over. So we've been having technical issues, but I think we got this.
Yeah, we're using video on the computer and mic on the iPad. Okay, so before we enter into practice, everybody find a comfortable seat. And if you have a block lying around or a pillow, I like to sit up on a block, especially at the beginning of class. And just take a second to maybe shake off the day, any residual tension that may have followed you into your practice. And to connect with the earth, feel your tailbone as an anchor that connects you to the ground, stability, and then also the spine springing up, relaxing the shoulders down. And we'll do 2 clearing breaths and 3 rounds of Om together. I used to always chant Om at the beginning of class, and since COVID started, I kind of fell out of the habit because I couldn't hear you anymore, but I want to reincorporate it back into the practice. So thank you, Veronica, for bringing that up last week. I'm like, yeah, let's do that. So inhale in through the nose. Exhale, AHA out of your mouth, release the air. Inhale in through the nose. Exhale, HA release. And this time, prepare for Om. Inhale. Inhale. Continuing. Inhale, breathe in. Exhale, release out. We use Om as a chant to connect us and kind of get us on the same wavelength before we enter into our practice, because we are still sharing space and time together. And we'll start class today in Balasana, Child's Pose, bringing the toes to touch. Knees can be extended, arms out long in front of you, forehead to the mat. And we'll be in Child's Pose for 5 minutes. So setting yourself up, knowing that you can sustain for time, like grabbing any props right away. Maybe you want a pillow for your chest. Maybe you want to put a bolster or something in between your knees. Just getting yourself set up. I'll give a halfway mark if you do choose to kind of switch your face. And arriving into your practice. And Yin Yoga is such a potent practice. And Yin in terms of Taoist theory and Chinese medicine, is the opposite of yang. And yang is going to be activity, it's motion, it's solar, it's bright. And so yin is the opposite of all those things. It's going to be slower, it's going to be more nurturing, it's going to be more regenerative, it's going to be a little bit more mysterious. It's going to rely a little bit more on your intuition. And so tapping into all of those energetic qualities throughout the duration of this practice, and knowing that when you finish, like, you can pick everything back up. But right now, trying to really, really give yourself this hour. I think that granting yourself that permission is like one of the biggest gifts that you can do, and validating doing this kind of work energetically. And in terms of anatomy and physiology, we're stressing and compressing the connective tissue, your fascia, your ligaments, your bones, and your joints. We're encouraging the regeneration of your bones. Also preventing the shrink wrapping of the muscles and the fascia. And there are 3 tattvas, 3 tenets to this practice. And the first is to meet your gentle edge, which you already found. And another way to think about this is pertinent depth. It's probably like anywhere in between like 40 and 70% of your range of motion. And that is because you want to be able to sustain it for time. And the second tattva, or truth, to this practice is to be still. And even as I said stillness, I like looked outside, and like the wind is just going wild right now. And you're often, when you're practicing stillness, it gives the mind the opportunity to, at least in my mind, get really loud, because you finally have created this space in your body to listen and to be receptive. And if the mind ever does become like really too loud, focusing on your breath, using the rhythm of the inhales and the exhales. You can focus on the nostrils, you can focus on the rise and the fall of the belly, the lungs, the diaphragm moving up and down to bring you back to your body. So to be still, there are 2 reasons in which you would move. If you're invited to go deeper, your edge recedes, absolutely follow it, ditch the prop if you want to ditch it. Or if you're feeling like you maybe set your edge too far, add a prop, pull out. We never want to experience any pain. And pain is like a sharp sensation, like a stabbing sensation, a burning sensation. We want to avoid all of those things. And even tingling, adding a prop or something to avoid that, because tingling over time could cause nerve damage. And then lastly, this is the halfway mark. So if you want to flip your cheek, we hold for time. I keep track of time on my cell phone, as does Veronica. So if you see us peeking at our screens, like, we are not texting. We are definitely keeping track of time. We like to give a halfway mark and a final minute, just so you can more easily surrender into the pose. When I hear the halfway mark, I'm like, cool. Like, it just kind of anchors you into the practice even more and makes it more easy for you to delve into your practice. The only other things I'll say, like, treat yourself with kindness. Ooh, that's good. Compassionate kindness. Putting those 2 words together. Just because when you do this kind of more interior work, at least in my mind, like, I'm judging, I'm nagging. It's like, no, suspend those things and like give yourself the space to do that, and like really try to practice kindness in a way that feels authentic to you in your practice. And when we do move out of the postures, do move slow, take your time, take the time to transition, shake it off in between, and we're gonna have a really good class. And we wanted to leave time in child's pose to get a little bit into the side body. We're gonna do a minute of lateral flexion or side body bending for the remainder of child's pose. So go ahead and walk your hands towards the left. So if the top of your mat was 12 o'clock, you're walking your hands towards like 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock or maybe even 9 o'clock on the dial. Feeling into the side body, you can feel the tip of your hip, the soft part of your belly, the floating ribs, and even like the sensation of the tip of your hip, the iliac crest, pulling away from the floating ribs. Noticing what's going on in the shoulder girdle. And we'll be here for just a minute on this side, and then we'll switch to the other side. And gently begin to bring the arms back towards center, moving palm by palm, and then direct your torso towards the other direction. So this is going to be more about 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock on the dial. And I just realized that my halfway mark was the halfway mark. But with the side body stretching, it may have left your head feeling a little uneven. And there will be opportunity during sleeping infant or napping baby if you wanted to redirect that, even it out later. And this is the final 30 seconds here. And gently go ahead and walk your hands back towards center. And slowly begin to discern how you'd like to exit the pose. Walking the hands back and arriving into a tabletop, stacking shoulders over wrists, hips over knees, and taking any movement the body is craving. After a long hold like that, you might want to kick the legs out. I know that's my favorite after a child's pose. You may kind of want to flow through cat and cow, extension and flexion of your spine. And just taking whatever movement the body is craving. This is another method in which we can really tap into the dialogue that is going on in our bodies and engage in those lines of communication. And next, we actually wanted to practice Dangling Pose, which is basically ragdoll. If you take a lot of vinyasa classes, and that is why I have this chair right here, because we're not going to do the hold for super long. We're going to do 1 minute, and we're going to do malasana, and then we're going to do a 2-minute hold. But I found that actually with a chair, it is just like dreamy. So if you do have a chair nearby, you don't need a chair. But I feel like since we are mostly all at home, people do have these kind of things around. So I'm going to use this chair here. And one way you can do it is to use the base here and then fold forward like this. I actually found my legs kind of can come right behind the chair, and then if I put a pillow here, it's like the perfect amount for me to fold over. So you could experiment with that also. So giving yourself a few seconds to get set up. You could also fold over like a couch or something. There's also the option, we're not doing the hold for like 5 minutes or anything. So you could really just kind of bend the knees, let the torso sway and hang. And that may be preferable for you in this moment. So I'm going to go ahead and set our timer so we're all on the same page here. Whoop. And we'll be here for 1 minute. And this is the halfway mark, 30 seconds. And if you're folded over the chair, you can gently begin to press yourself up, remove any pillow or cushioning. And if you are folded forward into a rag doll, you can meet us in Malasana squat. So coming down onto your haunches here, and if you have a block or a couple of books lying around, or maybe it's some couch cushions, for this one, it might be nice to actually sit the glutes and the ischial tuberosity or your sits bones onto the block. We're going to be here again for 1 minute. So you could do, if you're feeling juicy and ready to go, like you could, I can't believe I just said that. We are not burgers. But if you're feeling like this is where you want to be today, you could totally do this for a minute. If you're feeling up to it, let's set the timer here. And then we're going to repeat that. We're going to do dangling and malasana. And as teacher, it is really easy to teach a forward fold on the seat. It definitely adds like more layers in talking with dangling pose and like incorporating a chair. I know people are often like, oh, why a chair? But props are actually a really cool way to access things, gain a different perspective. And usually, even if I have resistance towards something, like using a block for the first time, I was like, oh, I don't need a block. And then I started using blocks and now I love them. So just giving yourself the openness and the space to kind of experiment, be investigative and curious about your practice. All right, go ahead, release the palms down, engage your legs. And you may want to stand up for a second, kind of just shake that off. Whew. Let that experience go, maybe almost fall over. And then we will meet in dangling, which is also very much like ragdoll. All the yin poses, we're using the names that Bernie Clark gave them. So for dangling pose, maybe you're gonna practice just with knees super bent, or maybe you want to get to the chair again. And I'm going to go ahead and start our timer. And the reason we're not doing this hold for an obscene amount of time is I think that it's very possible if you did this for too long, all the blood would rush to your head and it would maybe be rather uncomfortable. So you won't be here for super long. But using the chair, if you want, as a support, I'm telling you, it's good. Relaxing your jaw, unfurling the brow, removing the tongue from the roof of the mouth. This is the halfway mark. And gently begin to press the hands into the floor or the chair. Bring your hands onto your hips even and lift the chest. Kick out the legs, shake that off. And then we'll transition into Malasana squat. Sink your hips down low. And we'll be here for a couple of minutes. And I know it can be soothing to kind of hear these tidbits or to have someone read during yin or even to listen to music. But I have really reaped the greatest rewards in my yin practice when we've practiced in silence. So for a lot of the other poses, Veronica is going to talk some more later about some other things, but we're really going to be mostly in silence, using each pose as an opportunity to meditate and be with the self. And this is the halfway point. Okay, we've got 30 seconds here. And I'm actually noticing some tingling in my wrists, so I'm going to release that grip down. All right, and removing a block or book from underneath you. And coming to a seat, extending the legs out behind you. We're going to practice Sphinx Pose. I'm going to move this out of the frame. And for Sphinx Pose, coming to lay on your belly. And I actually like to put a pillow under my chest, under my elbows, because if I'm here for too long, sometimes it just is uncomfortable for the elbows. And the intention of this pose is to feel compression in the lumbar spine, the lower back. And if you get here and you feel like a pinching in your lower back, take some more distance in between your forearms, kind of create some more distance in between the arms. If you're not feeling anything at all, you could put books under your forearms or blocks under your forearms, because that's going to increase the intensity. And we're going to be holding Sphinx for 2 minutes, and then we're going to break it up with Sleeping Baby and then return back to it. And Veronica is going to lead us through that portion of class. I'm going to get the timer going. And if you're kind of wondering what to do with the neck, there's so many things. You can just keep the head up if you want. You can rest the head upon your fists, like you're pondering something very, very serious. You can also let the head hang. You can let the head rest on a block. The intention here is not to aggravate the neck, but to really get into the lower back. And this is the halfway point. All right, we are in our final few moments here, and Veronica is gonna lead us through the rest. I'm gonna pin back the video.
Awesome. So go ahead and move out of Sphinx if you haven't already. Moving slowly, of course, we're gonna go into napping baby. So I love a pillow under my chest, and we're gonna start with the right leg out. So I'll move this way. So for napping baby, it's pretty simple. Lower onto your belly, take your right leg out into internal rotation here, just laying it down and simply fold forward. I like my neck to be facing the same side, but you can also have your neck forward or down with your forehead on the mat, whatever feels comfortable. We'll be holding this one for a little while, about 6 minutes is what I have. So this is a very, very gentle rotation of the hip. We often don't, I think, open up the front of our bodies a lot. And so this pose kind of gives us the safety of the ground and the earth holding us, and gravity kind of doing the work while we can slowly open up the front side of our body. And for this first side, I'm gonna actually also take this one in silence and let you know the halfway point. This is our halfway point. If your mind has wandered, take a deep breath, bring it back. Maybe bring it back to the spleen, how it, transforms and transports, and how it's doing that right now. Yeah, it's pretty cool. This is the final minute. All right, beginning to move out of this pose, bringing the right leg slowly back in the body, maybe doing a couple windshield wipers with the legs. That was a long hold. And then we're gonna move right back up into Sphinx. So whatever modifications you need or felt like you didn't do the last time and wanna try again, go ahead and set that up. I'll start the timer. We're just gonna be here for 3 minutes. At the final minute, I will cue for seal, which is you just simply kind of put your hands out, lift yourself up for further extension, like a seal. And I'll let you guys know. All right, this is our halfway point. In this pose, I like to do this kind of breath, so I'll offer it here. It's just taking a deep kind of inhale through my nose, expanding the stomach and feeling it press on the mat. And then when I exhale, I kind of send the exhale to my tailbone where it's kind of experiencing compression. So if you want to do that with me, take an inhale, expand the stomach, and an exhale, send it right to the tailbone. Almost picture the tailbone. We're about at our final minutes, so if you'd like to move up into seal, go ahead and press your hands in. Raising the chest up. Maybe holding the neck up to really get that opening in the chest and really solidify that curve of the spine. All right, nice job. Moving slowly, lower yourself back onto the mat. We're gonna take happy baby on the other side. If there's anything you need to do in between, I'm actually kind of feeling a small twist. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do that. And then when you're ready, take your left leg up and out. Creating that nice rotation on the left side, opening up the left front of the hip, head falls. However, the timer has been started. And I really am excited we're working the spleen today, because the spleen is kind of this thing that governs the blood. And it's filtering it, moving it, taking its nutrients. And blood is the perfect example of both yin and yang. It has qualities of both and balances both of them constantly. The yin of blood is its nourishing properties. You know, it's giving your body what it needs so its muscles can be healthy, so its joints can move, so its organs can digest. It's giving it nutrients, it's giving it life. But it also has a yang aspect because it's moving. Yin's super stationary, but yang moves. So just in the movement of itself, it brings in that yang. It also protects us. If we get cut, it's there moving even faster and also moving to heal just as fast. So working the spleen, this thing that filters the blood, is a really kind of good way to energetically just work our blood as well. I also wanted to talk about, Greta's going to lead a wonderful little earth meditation during our Shavasana. And so I kind of wanted to talk about the earth, you know? It's everything from mountain ranges, from grassy hills, from meadows, to valleys. And you know, it reciprocates rain, it reciprocates sediment, it you know, sustains with fire. It's this great resilient thing that constantly gives back no matter what. The earth always kind of gives back. It provides a home for all of us. Its soil feeds us. Its ground gives us stability, but it also gives us a sense of time and space. It's porous, it's eroding, it's dense. It's all these like qualities that, you know, are much like us and how we feel inside our bodies on a daily basis. And also with, you know, kind of the times that we are entering and have experienced already this year. It's always nice to know that the earth is still spinning. It's still holding us. It's still being resilient as ever. We passed our halfway mark about 30 seconds ago. Just thinking about the earth always makes you really thankful as well. And especially thankful for this posers community and being able to share yoga, share, you know, nerdy facts about anatomy and kinesiology and all these things with you guys, because it gives me, and it's a lot of fun for me, and feels great to be with community. So I'm thankful for that, as I am thankful for this earth. All right, this is your final minute. Also, I don't know if I added this, but the earth element, its corresponding yin organ is the spleen. So it's said that the spleen and the earth, because earth provides the food and um, the spleen filters the food into nutrients, that their relationship is intimate and special with one another. As the lungs is with air, as the heart and the soul is with heat. All right, moving slowly out of this pose. Go ahead and windshield wiper the legs and maybe just roll onto your back in your own time. We're gonna take a real quick happy baby. And for this happy baby, we're not gonna be here long. I'll start the timer. We're only gonna be here for 2 minutes. But I kind of want you guys to play, feel what it's like to raise a leg up, to squeeze them in, to maybe grab the knees, to maybe grab the feet, to maybe roll your ankles around, or maybe to just flatten the back, the lower back onto the mat, kind of slowly closing that gap from the sacrum and the mid-back, and just flattening that part of the back onto the mat. Really letting it relax. We've done some deep hip work. This is your halfway point. Feeling the compression of the diaphragm against both your knees and the mat. Making the diaphragm work just a little bit to get that full breath of air in. And just an easy breath out. All right, to come out of this, I'm going to suggest maybe just a little rocking and rolling up a few times, massaging the spine along the mat to come to a seat. We're going to have our legs out long for what is dangling but sitting. If you want, it's a Paschimottanasana, so we're going to do a forward fold over straight legs. If you want to put a block underneath your pelvis to tilt it, that is what I'm going to do because my hamstrings are feeling it. So that kind of adds a lift, and that way you can kind of not feel like you're bending so much from the top, but rather you're rounding forward. If you have a pillow, round over that. That'll all help. Again, this isn't a super long hold. We'll be here for 3 minutes. Greta and I were talking when we were making this sequence about how we always avoid this pose, and so that's why we're doing it. This is your halfway point. All right, moving out, lifting up the head slowly, giving the legs a little shake, a little bounce. And we'll come on our backs. And if you have a strap nearby, or it could be a t-shirt, it could be a scarf, go ahead and grab that. We are going to lie on our backs and hook that to I'll start with the right leg. Scoot over. So we're gonna hook it onto our foot. And give yourself some time to come and land on your back, and even just land in this position. Play with this kind of hamstring stretch. If you want it on the arch of your foot, so it gives it a little massage. And then we're gonna actually have the right leg fall out to the right first, kind of creating another big opening in the front. My lower back is feeling tight, so I'm gonna keep my knee bent. But if you want an extra stretch on the front of the body, go ahead and lower that leg. My lower back's feeling tight, so this is just fine for me. We're just here for one more minute, and we'll go into a supine twist. All right, lifting back up through center and pulling it right on over for a twist. Now, if you keep your leg long and really let that leg stretch out. But I don't have the room, so I'm just gonna do a curl, but this is, the supine twist is kind of like a pick your own adventure. You could do twisted root. You could do two legs together, or you could do leg out long. Whatever you choose to do, make sure it's comfortable, make sure you're at a point of ease. This is our halfway point. All right, bring the legs back to center. Give them a little hug in. Maybe tap the forehead to the knees. Give yourself a squeeze. And move that strap over to the other foot. And we'll do this on the left side. Again, wrapping your strap around the arch of your foot, bringing it up high. Playing with the hamstring and letting it just fall out to the left. We did so much work in the hips today and kind of opening up the front side and these adductors, which are all these muscles that are so key for just balancing, finding our balance, improving our kind of proprioception, allowing us to just feel the earth that much more. Bringing the leg back up and over the right for a gentle twist. We'll be here for 3 minutes. Kind of noticing how different your body feels right now than it did 65 minutes ago or so. I just turned over to the right side to see that my little house centipede friend has not moved one bit. I think maybe he is watching me do yoga. This is our halfway point. But interestingly enough, I'm not as scared of him anymore. him or her. All right, coming back to center. Removing the strap from the foot. Taking any movement, your last movement, stretches overhead, knees, windshield wipering, and into Shavasana, releasing the legs out long. I'm going to switch us over to Greta Rose as we get comfy with our blankets and pillows.
Thank you, Veronica. That was so nice. All right, and getting settled in for Shavasana. You can choose to lay on your back, releasing any residual tension in the face, arms, bouncing out the legs. And preparing for final rest. I have a guided meditation I'm going to read. It was inspired. I've been reading Lama Rod Owens' Love and Rage book, and he talks about Earth really well in that book. So it really resonated with me, and I kind of incorporated it with what I've learned from Yoga Nidra. And Yoga Nidra travels through the layers of self through the kosha system. I'm not going to get into that right now. So we're just going to do, Yoga Nidra takes like 20 minutes. This is not that. But I'm just going to run us through a quick kind of setup before we dive into the meditation. So scanning the physical body and noticing, feeling the blood and the nourishment, like Veronica was talking about, the spleen, feeling the texture of your hands, the temperature in the room, just taking in everything you can with physical sensations. And then from there, directing your awareness to the breath, feeling the rise and the fall of the belly, and then the release, cyclical process with oxygen and CO2. And just noticing the breath. And then directing your awareness to the mind, knowing that the mind thinks, it's going to narrate, it's where the ego is. We need our ego. And just noticing the tone there. And then arriving at this sense of awareness. And from here, I will begin. Evoke the energy of the earth and invite that energy into your body. You are a reflection of the earth, and she is a reflection of you. Within yourself, where her essence resides, find that. Feel her in your bones. Notice the force of gravity keeping you tethered to this experience. The weight of your body on the floor. Feel the connection between the body and the floor. Imagine roots submerging into the earth below you. You may have to travel through several layers of other apartments, but you will arrive. Find the dense, rich soil below you. Connect with the soil. Let it nourish you. Your roots are your foundation. They are strong and firm, and they are not alone. There is a network of roots in the earth. They exchange information and share resources through a fungal network. Your foundation is strengthened by your community. Release anything you've been grasping onto and are ready to release, to let go. The earth will take this energy and transmute it. It is only potential energy to her, an offering. Imagine now traveling back up towards the surface. You arrive and are nestled in one of her large branches. Allow yourself to be held by the earth. Her smooth bark's warm embrace. The earth is always there for you. She is always integrated in your experience. Notice the earth. She is reliable, patient, consistent. Invite her energetic qualities into your experience. Embrace your own agency and sense of empowerment. Channel determination, safety, confidence. Gather with you and visualize your ancestors, guides, icons, all by your side. Tap into your reserves of courage and resiliency. And if you feel any part of you is missing, reclaim what is rightfully yours. You are of this earth. Her essence resides within you always. Keep this awareness of earth and presence and retain it in your experience. And I'll let you know when it's time to come up and out for Shavasana. And slowly begin to invite movement back into your body. Gentle bouncing of the legs, wiggling of your fingertips. Even expand and scrunch your face. Bring the arms above you like you would stretching in the morning. Bring knees in towards your chest, and choose if you'd like to roll over on the right, which is going to be that more active yang energy, or the left, which is going to coincide with the yin and more lunar energy. Using the bicep like a pillow, coming into a fetal position. And generating a wave of gratitude for yourself for doing this practice. And also a wave of appreciation for carving out this time and having the space available to do this work tonight. Honoring the lineage of this practice with its roots in India and yoga, and also its roots in Taoist theory and Chinese medicine, and kind of merging of these ideas together. Honoring the many teachers that have brought me to the place where I am, and Veronica, and also your teachers, your experiences, where they brought you on your process, on your path. And we also like to do a land acknowledgement. So honoring the land that you occupy, that I occupy. This class comes to you from East Coast and West Coast. Veronica's in Brooklyn and I'm in Seattle. So we honor the unceded ancestral lands of the Duwamish people, and also the unceded ancestral lands of the Lapade, Canarsie, and Rockaway people. The land we occupy is on the traditional territory of the Coast Salish peoples and the Lapade people in Seattle and Brooklyn. We honor the indigenous traditions of the ancestors, and also the people still here today who carry those traditions forward. You can gently press yourself up to a seat, and we'll meet with hands at heart center. And if it feels authentic to you, this gesture, it represents non-dualism. It's the coming together of the yin and the yang, and where they meet, the compassionate and wise center, that is the heart. And then bringing hands from heart center to third eye, strengthening the connection between your heart and your mind, your intuition, imagination, and bowing forward to seal in practice, honoring yourself, the full gamut of your felt human experience, both the shadowy and the luminous aspects. Thank you and peace. Thank you so much for being here.